The passage begins by establishing the importance of leadership to an organization's culture. And this importance is then explained. It is explained in a manner that suggests that everything in an organization, rather the success of an organization, the organizational goals and the individual goals of the employees are interrelated. So we see that in the next few statements. A deeply embedded and established culture shows people how to behave, which helps employees achieve their goals. This behavioral framework, as in which is the culture which shows people how to behave, in turn ensures high job satisfaction when employees feel that leaders are helping them complete a goal. From this perspective, organizational culture, leadership, and job satisfaction are all inextricably linked. In fact, there is a circular relation between these. These form a kind of a chain or a kind of a cycle. One leads to another, and then that leads to the first again. Let's look at the options. Option A says the system of governance is the deciding factor in the organizational culture as it defines the prevalent structure and hierarchy. Now, this is limited because one, there's a problem with using the phrase, the system of governance. The system of governance, it refers to leadership or leaders, but there are other options, as we can see, which do this directly. They mention leadership. This doesn't. While the system of governance is equatable to leadership, it still does not necessarily talk about leadership or leaders as such, which is the primary subject of the passage. It may talk about the system of rules or the law of the organization. So we are not very certain about this. There's a slight ambiguity. Rather, there's an inferential step that might not be in itself enough to eliminate this option, but we see that it talks about this being a deciding factor in the organizational culture as it defines whatnot. But then the aspect of organizational culture, leadership, job satisfaction, employees and leaders, these are all interconnected. These are all inextricably linked. That aspect is omitted from option A. So A is not an appropriate choice. We can eliminate it. Option B says leadership must be defined by the prevailing organizational culture as that would aim to create the most job satisfaction. This is contradictory to the passage. This inverts the argument. The passage says that leadership must define the organizational culture because it is very important. This says leadership must be defined by the prevailing organizational culture, or organizational culture defines leadership, which is the complete opposite. It is the other way around altogether. So B is incorrect. Option C tells us leadership and organizational culture are inextricably intertwined as they together aim to fulfill individual goals. Now, there is a slight problem with this, but this is the most appropriate answer so far because it talks about leadership, it talks about organizational culture, it talks about the inextricably intertwined nature, the interconnection of the link of these aspects. And then it says they together aim to fulfill individual goals. Now, individual goals is an aspect, but we see that there is an aspect of behavior as well. So there can be a discussion of the organization's goals. So job satisfaction is mentioned here, but that is not mentioned in this option. So this is decent enough. Let us see if we can find a better or maybe a little or a slightly better phrased option in D. Otherwise, C would be our answer. Option D says organizational culture is very deeply important to the organization as it defines leadership and its roles in the organization. This again is completely incorrect. It makes the same mistake as B does. Organizational culture is important because it defines leadership. Quite the other way around. Leadership defines organizational culture, and then this completely omits the aspect of the inextricable link between these aspects: organizational culture, leadership, job satisfaction, leaders and employees. completing employees, fulfilling employees' goals, fulfilling individual goals. None of that is mentioned in D. So D is quite limited and also distorted. Option D can be eliminated. Thus, by comparison, we can qualify C. While not the most appropriate answer, that is the best answer here, at least among these given options. So we have the answer as option C.